July 26, 2010 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Antelli, Mr. Beebe, Mrs. Draw, Mr. Eckel, Chairman Hanna,
Here.
Mr. Lee is excused, Mr. Lightfoot, Mr. McCann, Mr. Yolovich.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum this evening?
There are no public forum speakers today.
Is there anyone present who would like to address the committee this evening? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the June 28th, 2010 minutes before you. They'll stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item, new business, Madam Clerk.
Referral 10-213, acceptance of a grant
Moved
from the New York State.
by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Legislator Lightfoot.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask through you to the administration, could you please clarify the legislative action item number 1 states that this referral will authorize the county executive to both accept a grant of $20,000 from the state while also entering into a contract with the same state office for an annual amount not to exceed $4,000 for a 4-year period. Is this accurate? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
It's a 5-year grant for $4,000 each year.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, will the county be receiving an annual amount of up to $4,000 in grant funding from the state in this referral?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, all right. Why are we authorizing, through you, Mr. Chairman, for the appropriation of lump sum of $20,000 into 2010 grant budget for 2010 when we know we will not receive anything in 2010? Through you, Mr. Chairman. You want me to ask that again?
Yeah.
Okay. I said, through you, Mr. Chairman, why are we authorizing for appropriation of a lump sum of $20,000 into the 2010 grant budget for 2010 when we know we will not receive anything in 2010, only an amount of up to $4,000 in 2011?
It's an ongoing grant. We've already received $4,000 for 2010.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the referral states that this money has been available since the mid-1980s. Has the county ever previously applied for this funding or received any of this before? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, yes.
And
Every year.
over a year? Every year?
Every year.
Thank you. What materials will be purchased with this grant? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, the materials that are going to be purchased are materials specific for the analysis of arson cases or fire debris cases.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Legislator Eckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, could you please clarify? I didn't understand your answer to my colleague's question, the second question he asked. When he asked, we're authorizing for a lump sum of $20,000 in the 2010 grant budget, but we're not going to receive this until, well, we're going to receive, what, 4 more payments over the next 4 years. Wouldn't that go into those grant budgets?
It's an ongoing grant. We received $4,000 already for the year 2010. This is for 2011, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Again, through the chair, why are we accepting $20,000 into the 2010 grant budget when these monies are coming in over the next 4 years? They're not coming in 2010. They're coming in 2011, 12, 13, etc. But we're accepting $20,000.
This is through the chair in an effort to get the process ongoing. We want to get the grant approved so we can appropriate the funds for those years. For 2010, we've already received the $4,000.
I'm sorry if I'm not understanding this correctly, but why are we accepting $20,000 when we're only getting $4,000 this year?
Through the chair, let me try to answer that. We're trying to get the process going, and we can't amend the future budgets. It's a contract that needs to be entered into in lump sum. But the way our financial system is set up, that you designate the years, because a grant carries from year to year, so you designate in the actual grant coding what year you can spend what. So even though we won't be getting it until '01, the end of this grant coding will end, 1/1/11 to 1/1/12, and then the next 4,000 will be for the following year.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't understand that. Now I do.
Right.
I appreciate your answers.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 10-214 authorized.
Moved by Legislator McCann, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Legislator Eckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, what is the balance of the Stop DWI Reserve Fund?
Through the chair, currently, I can't give you the exact figure, but there's probably about $500,000 in there right now.
Okay, thank you. And again, through the chair, how are these funds collected?
Through the chair, these funds are, if somebody is convicted of DWI, it actually goes to the state, and then the state appropriates it to each county, the funding for the DWI fines.
Just so I understand that, they get convicted here of DWI, that the money they get fined goes to the state, and then the state sends it back to us.
Through the chair, correct, through OCA, and then it comes back to us.
Okay, thank you. And what is this, through the chair, what is this funding typically spent on?
Through the chair, we have, of course, our operating budget, and at the end of the year, if we exceed the operating budget, reserve, we would go into reserve to cover the operating budget, or these special reserve, these reserve funds can only be spent on strictly DWI activities, above and beyond what they would normally do. For example, a couple years ago, we purchased the Star Van for the Sheriff's Department, because it services the entire county, so.
Okay. Thank you. And through the chair, what transfers must come before the legislature for approval, and are there any that do not?
Through the chair, I assume you mean specific to these funds. Anything above the budget, because it has to come out of a reserve. I don't know if there's a dollar limit or not. I think it might be like a $5,000. But I think anything when you're amending the budget has to come before the ledge.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, has there been a decrease in other funding that prompted this transfer, or what has prompted this transfer?
Through the chair, it was just the technical advisory panel we were reviewing the financials and saw there was quite a bit in the reserve. We try to keep about half the money of the budget in the reserve, and people were just, had just come to the board with ideas of how to spend that, not intentionally to spend it, but just to spend it with some new ideas, and this is what came out of it.
All right, thank you. And hopefully, finally, through the chair, how will this funding be spent? I mean, if you could explain the bar check details.
Do you want to do that? Okay.
Through the chair, Bob Burns, the probation administrator. These funds would be used to pay overtime expenses for probation officers to do these checks at night and on weekends. These are the kinds of tasks that we always like to do, but with caseloads as they are, probation officers are rarely able to do that. Teams of upwards to 10 probation officers will check on a variety of bars and taverns that are identified through intelligence, either through assistance from the State Liquor Authority, where they identify problem bars, or by looking at the records of our 1,800 DWI offenders, where they drank before their offense, bars that are near their places of employment or place of school. And probation officers, in numbers depending on officer safety issues, will enter the bars and will look for individuals who are not supposed to be out after a certain hour, look for individuals who are not supposed to be drinking based on court order, and make decisions if and when we find those people.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, item carries.
Referral number 10-215, authorize the transfer.
Moved by legislator Yolovich, seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, item carries.
Referral number 10-216, acceptance.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Legislator Beebe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, can you confirm that this is just for a 4-month period, this grant?
Through the chair, Lieutenant Paul DeLoa from the Sheriff's Office, yes, it is.
All right, thank you. And I see that this, through the chair to the administration, this is the first year to receive this grant. In the future, will the grant be more than just a 4-month period?
Through the chair, I don't have that information. I don't know.
Through the chair to the administration, this 4-month period that we received the grant for, is it because we got in the middle of applying for it, and is that why?
Through the chair, I don't have that information either, but typically the state will award monies to serve warrants because there's always a backlog on warrants. And the best way to attack them is if we can do it through this money and put a lot of people to attack the problem.
All right, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, I'd like to request that get a confirmation that this grant was exactly just for a 4-month period.
Is there any other discussion?
Didn't he say that it was for a 4-month period? He stated that unequivocally.
So it is our understanding that it is a 4-month period. Is that sufficient? I mean, do you understand that?
I'll decipher it, thank you.
Very good. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, item carries.
Referral 10-217, authorize a contract.
Moved by legislator McCann, seconded by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Legislator Lightfoot.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I've always found this interesting topic here. Always wondered how this works, so just bear with me. I do have several questions concerning this, being that I personally received calls from constituents, collect calls and things of that nature, so just want to understand this. Through you, Mr. Chairman, what is the balance of the T99 fund?
Through the chair, I don't have the numbers on the balance of the fund, but I can most certainly get that for you.
Do you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to definitely get the balance of the fund as well as a list of services that the funds pay for. Do you, Mr. Chairman? My next question is, what is the cost of the phone calls at the jail, average cost for family per call?
Through the chair, I can try and get that information, but that I guess that would depend on each phone call is obviously for time, so it depends on how long the phone call is.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we were looking for an average kind of, what is it costing in average per inmate? When we look at this at an overall, I don't know if it's whether it be monthly or however we're being billed for this, or this company's being billed. I just kind of wanted to see what was an average per inmate through you, Mr. Chairman. So if that could be provided, that would be greatly appreciated too.
Through the chair, I'm not sure how they tracked it, but if we can pinpoint that, we will, and I'll get that for you.
Right. Through you, Mr. Chairman, could you please, to the administration, please clarify the terms of the contract with the Globaltel Link by paying an annual commission of between 64 to 68% of the total gross billed revenues to the county to be deposited in a T99 fund and keep the balance? Could you kind of clarify the terms of the contract through you, Mr. Chairman? I guess the question is, through you, Mr. Chairman, will Globaltel be paying an annual commission between 64 to 68% of the total gross billed revenue to the county, and will that be deposited in the T99 fund? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, once again, I'll have to get that information to you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, who is the current provider?
Through the chair, I believe it's Globaltel Link.
Okay, is this new contract a result of expiration of the old contract, through you, Mr. Chairman?
Through the chair, I believe it is.
And my final question is, I'd like to request, along with the other things that have been requested here, a copy of both the proposed and the current contract for this service, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. So we are looking to get to Legislator Lightfoot the fund balance, services provided, some kind of a cost per call. And if we could have that, that would be appreciated. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 10-218, authorize a contract.
Moved by Legislator Yolovich, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Eckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On average, through the chair, on average, how many other events are billed by the Sheriff's Office annually?
Through the chair, I can't give you an exact number. I most certainly can get that off the top of my head. I can think of 3 or 4, but I'm sure there's more than that.
Okay, thank you. And also through the chair, how much revenue, if you can also with that let us know an average of how much revenue this brings in for, say, the past 5 years annually?
Through the chair, yes, it will.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 10-220, authorize an intermunicipal agreement.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 10-230, authorize an agreement with Ogden
Moved by
Telephone.
Legislator McCann, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Legislator Eckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, what is the schedule for construction of the replacement tower? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on 31 or? No, I'm sorry. 30. I'm sorry. My bad.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 10-231, enact a local law.
Moved by Legislator Yolovich, seconded by Legislator Draw. No discussion on this. No. Legislator Eckel.
2, thank you. Through the chair, what is the schedule for the construction of the replacement tower?
Through the chair, Tim Murphy, Director of County Real Estate. That's part of the overall plan with the LDC, and at this point, we don't have a specific time frame for a new tower.
All right, thank you. Through the chair, how much was spent on the initial cost of constructing the tower and purchasing the land as alluded to in the referral? And when did this occur?
Through the chair, the original tower was constructed in 1982. The approximate cost then was $20,000. It's always been a lease agreement for the land.
Okay. Thank you. Through the chair, the referral is requesting us to authorize that the assignment or subleasing of the lease and easements. Is there intention to do both, either subleasing or lease?
Through the chair, there will be all of those. The land is currently owned by the town of Ogden, will continue to be. There is a current lease agreement with the Monroe County Water Authority. It's a water tower site, and the easements will be for egress and ingress and for utilities that are all currently in place with the existing tower, but they expire with the current agreement.
Okay, so if I get this correctly, tell me if I'm correct on this, were the water authority, through the chair, the water authority is leasing, currently has the lease on the land. So are we subleasing from the water authority, or is this a secondary lease with the town of Ogden?
Through the chair, the primary lease that's been in place since 1982 was for a 40 by 60 area. With contemplation of erecting a newer, larger tower, we will need a larger footprint. So therefore, we will lease from the town the original 40 by 60 and sublet from the water authority the additional area that we need for the new, larger tower.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. I appreciate it. Through the chair, the referral also states that the sublease of the lease and easement can be negotiated by the county executive. However, if such an agreement is negotiated, will it then come before the legislature for consideration prior to its enactment?
Through the chair, no, this will allow the county executive to enter into the lease agreement.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, item carries.
Referral 10-232, enact a local law
Moved by
authorizing.
Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Legislator Lightfoot.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, a few questions here. Were competitive proposals sought, such as RFPs, or was it a sole source project? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, there were no formal RFPs done, but there was discussions. This has been an ongoing desire since like 2004. So there were two other developers that were approached for the same footprint.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, who were those two other developers you're referring to?
The other developers were Flom Development and Ike Evangelo.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, why was the Ogden site selected?
Through the chair, back in the early 2000s, the Sheriff's Department had Genesee Transportation Council make a determination as to the best location for response times to cover the towns that the zone responds to. this was one of the top two areas indicated by GTC.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chairman, is the county the sole tenant?
Through the chair, yes.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, does the rent include taxes, utilities, and insurance, or will there be an addition to the quoted rent?
Through the chair, the taxes will not be included in that rate, nor will the utilities.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, why is the county choosing to rent again versus placing this at a county-owned facilities?
Through the chair, I don't have an exact answer. All of our zone locations are in leased facilities and have served each zone well throughout the course of time.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chairman, what is the timeline of the construction of this facility?
This facility will be ready to be occupied December 1st.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Legislator Yolovich.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just a point of information. I'm a little familiar with the Ogden area, being that that's my district out there. And to Mr. Lightfoot's question about why don't we use a county facility instead of renting, there are no county facilities out there that we own in the area that they need to cover Zone D. D or C?
C.
C, excuse me, Zone C.
Thank you. Thank you, Legislator Yolovich. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Seeing none. Legislator Beebe.
I just have a comment, if I could present it for the record. I requested that Public Safety Director Steve Bowman be here today because I had several questions in regards to a matter that's been of newsworthy importance. And I would like to have it stated for the record that I'm requesting that the Public Safety Director start showing up to these meetings. Thank you.
Any other items to come before the committee? There being no further business, the July 26, 2010 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on August 30th, 2010 at 5 p.m.